Getting our kicks on Route 66 from Flagstaff, Arizona. It's the 2023 PDGA Masters Disc Golf World Championships. I'm Grant Zellner alongside Terry Miller. We've got a highlight-heavy show for you today here at the U.S. Masters Championships. Nearly 900 players in the field. Everybody out on the course yesterday and through round number one. The local team led by Bill Block and Steve Johnson doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, and so many things that they have to overcome in terms of the obstacles and hurdles because we're talking about so many competitors, extreme heat, making sure everyone stays hydrated. The crew is working hard. They're out there hustling around, and so far, so good.
We've said it before, we're at 7,000 feet. You feel it every time you have to go up or down a set of stairs, much less some of these courses that have considerable elevation changes. Up and down, lots of elevated putts, lots of downhill drives, and a little bit of the opposite too. It's really testing our players' physical stamina, not just their disc golf capabilities. Well, as I said before, a highlight-heavy show today. Lots of crews out there getting coverage of some of those most popular divisions, a lot of players that you've probably heard of. Let's get it started. The MP40 division. Joe Revere, your defending champion in the MP40 division, taking to the Little America course. Hole number one, the most difficult hole at Little America long, playing to an average of more than a half a stroke over par on day number one.
Yeah, and what we were seeing overall is that the course was attackable. Plenty of players collecting a lot of birdies out here. Joe Revere was one of those gentlemen. There was an early score set in the morning by Steve Rico. We already knew where the bar was at 10 under. It was a matter of who else could possibly come catch up to him. Joe Revere, your defending champ, he knew where he needed to be.
He parred the first. He's ahead here at the fourth, another par four here on this course. A little short off the tee thanks to a tree kick, but this forehand approach to a downhill pin placement, absolutely exquisite. Danger behind the pin, no problem for Joe. That's a birdie, and Joe moves all the way ahead to the 12th now. This is one of the shortest holes on the course, a touchy little 246-foot uphill par three. Joe leaving a little meat on the bone, taking care of that putt as well. Joe, bogey-free, 9 under. He'll play from the chase card today due to the logjam at 9 under. Didn't quite make the tiebreaker we use on day number one, but he is most definitely in the hunt. This course suits his game. He's used to playing at elevation.
Yeah, and I would just say, I would add on to that, the bogey-free, I think, is crucial. When you look at almost all of the players in the top 7, 8, 10 spots or so, they managed to keep it clean out here. Just 1 or 2 mistakes overall when it was all said and done. Dave Feldberg, I gave him a hard time about it at the house last night. He had 2 bogeys, which is more than the top 10 guys combined had out on the course. He said, yeah, I know, I got to clean it up. But Dave Feldberg, plenty of birdies to make up for those 2 bogeys.
Yeah, the highest birdie rate on the day for Feldberg. He overcame a back injury last year, finished about 7th last year in the field with injury, says this year he's feeling 100%. Here he is at the 6th, one of several par 4s on the course. Really nasty winds yesterday at times, gusting and swirling. There were times players would play 2 shots in the same direction, each time with a different wind. But Dave handled it very, very well. He's at the next hole here, another par 3 to 25 feet, and in for the birdie.
Yeah, he was definitely talking. He was cognizant of the wind that was out here. He felt like some of the players earlier in the day had the advantage, having those lower wind conditions. He could feel those in the afternoon. So, Dave, that's all part of being on your feature card. Sometimes you have to deal with slightly different conditions.
A lot of the holes here at Little America bend from left to right, forcing these right-handed players, that is, to flex a lot of shots, go to some very touchy left to right curving shots. And in cases where the green is downhill, that judgment of where to land that disc gets really tricky. A lot of guys yesterday going long, 25, 30, 40 feet even. That putting range, to your point yesterday, Terry, you've got to be able to make those putts from that range if you're going to contend.
Yeah, I feel like everyone is still trying to dial in exactly where they are with how the elevation reacts to the disc and what it's doing for you. That includes even the putting, but you have to take advantage of those opportunities, like you said, when you're close. And we'll see if the wind's going to continue to pick up throughout the week. Obviously, all of our leaders and our leaderboard is going to be more congested now, so they'll be playing in essentially the exact same conditions, and we'll see how everyone handles it as the week goes on.
As you mentioned, Steve Rico posting the early hot round yesterday. 2 players tying him eventually at 10 under par. Michael Johansson and Kale Leviska, both at 10 under with Steve Rico. Dave Feldberg's 9 under. He gets the tiebreaker, the low PDGA number. He'll play on the lead card for round number 2. We caught up with Dave Feldberg after his round.
Joining us now is 3-time Masters World Champ and Open World Champion Dave Feldberg. Dave, 9 under, wasn't quite as clean as the rest of our lead card competitors that we're going to see in round 2, but right there in the hunt. You can't complain about that, can you?
I'm not complaining. I want to be on the featured card. So, they put me on the featured card, and sometimes in the afternoon, the winds in America pick up, and you're at a slight disadvantage, but it was worth it to be able to play with the top players, and I'm glad I was able to come out because, halfway through, I thought, oh, that was a mistake to play on the featured card, but we got going, me and Joe, and pushed each other, and we both still in the hunt.
Well, I mean, you're one of the best that's ever played here, right? So I'm not here for the excuses. I want to hear how you're getting it done. Talk about elevation. Talk about some of the adjustments you've had to make this week.
I used to travel around the world, and I played all the mountain tournaments. That was my thing. So I carry a separate bag. So I wanted to tell everybody at home, if you ever come to Flagstaff or higher, bring your wife or girlfriend's bag. Right now, my go-to drivers today that you'll see fly, that orange one, is my wife's driver. That white one is my wife's driver. Mine are useless here. You really have to adjust. I carry a separate bag. You can roll your wrist and they flex. And when the opposite in putting is headwinds don't lift and tailwinds do. So it's a complete mind, blank on most people. And I think that this is the opportunity for the experienced players. That's why you saw Steve Rico up there. He really knows how to manipulate his disc. And I think you'll see the most experienced players in the field, maybe over the talented players, win this week.
Well, so we got one round in, of course, here at the Little America long course. Tomorrow we head to a different course, talk about the adjustments and how that course suits you versus playing here.
I think that course suits me better because it requires shot shaping, but it's very similar to this. We did play it 20 years ago in the Worlds. They added about 2,000 feet to it, and I think you just have to really be able to shape stuff. And here, when you miss, there was always a tunnel to save. You'll see that on the tape. There, when you miss, there's no tunnel to save. So I think we'll see the scores in the overall field be much lower, but the top score might be very close.
All right. Well, if you're of the generation of disc golfers of Dave and myself, you're going to be all geared up for the lead card in round number 2 here at the World Championships. Nice work, Dave.
Thank you.
Back to you guys.
David Feldberg looking strong through one round. Still 81 holes of mountain disc golf to go if you make the final foursome on Saturday. This week is going to be a grind.
Yeah, and as you said, Dave overcoming some injury from last year and then trying to make sure that he's ready to go for the competition this year. He seems really confident. He's been having fun. It looks like his game is all put together. He's ready to go. I know he's got a good friend out there hauling all of those discs around for him, caddies, and that could be a whole separate segment. I feel like how crucial that extra help is, not only to keep you to keep the weight off your back, but also to remind you to stay hydrated, to remind you to watch your step, take it easy, find the shade when you can. All of those things are crucial. So anyone with a caddy this week, I think, is also going to have an advantage.
Do they still rent pack mules up at the Grand Canyon?
I think that's my good friend Dan Long, who is Dave's caddy. I think that's where they may have reserved him from, is up at the canyon. So Dave's in good hands with Dan over there.
Joe Revere knows what it's like to grind through a tournament like this. He took this event down last year at Northwood Black, so definitely someone familiar with a lot of physical adversity throughout the course of the week. We caught up with Joe as well after his first round.
Welcome in our defending champ from last year. Joe Revere joins us. And Joe, we talk about maybe an advantage in you playing in elevation, which we have here. We also talk a little bit about some extensive knowledge you have. Physics, robotics, other things. You bringing all that this week here to Flagstaff?
I wish I could say it would help me. I don't think it really helped me, but the physics were funky. Higher elevation, thinner air, you're going to have less air friction on the disc, so generally things are going to hyzer out. They're not going to flip over. And what I found is even in a headwind during the week, discs were still not flipping over. So that's why Dave and I were just talking about it's kind of funky on that last one, how both of our drives flipped over. But I don't know if it gives me an advantage or not. And I did move up 2,000 feet. And I also feel like that's an exponential graph of I mean, I had to adjust quite a bit. I know everybody else had to adjust more, but a lot of people are under the impression that I didn't have to adjust, and I did. So other than that, it's playing great and a beautiful day.
Well, talk a little bit more about the physics and the adjustment in terms of, is that lighter weight for you? Is that a possibility? Is it just overall less stability on the disc you're putting in your hand? Explain why one of those might benefit somebody.
Absolutely. So with less air friction, you're going to want to go less stable. I don't mess around with weights, and I know some people do. I have everything max weight just for consistency purposes. My advice to anybody that plays at elevation is to go out to a field before you get to the course. Go out to a field, grab a putter, a mid-range, a fairway, and a driver, and figure out which ones go straight. Because the one that you think is straight at your elevation is not going to go straight here. So you find the disc out of all of them that goes straight, and then build your bag from there. As a lot of people also say they'll shift over one spot, but generally that's not enough. So what I did is I just went out whichever went through straight, and then I built around from there. So that's my advice. But I go with max weight.
All right, well, I'm going to go with the pro that knows, that has the world title. That's Joe Revere. He's in the hunt. We'll see him tomorrow.
Thank you, Terry.
So Joe says being a science teacher doesn't help, and then through his play and his knowledge, he goes on to prove himself wrong.
Yeah, and any good champion knows he'll fight through any adversity, even if he is playing at a higher elevation. It doesn't seem to matter. Joe right there in the hunt, and we'll find him on the chase card.
We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Imagine, your favorite disc is unreachable. How will you recover? Have no fear. Introducing the ARM Augmented Reaching Mechanism. Providing players with over 21 feet of reach, users will face no challenge retrieving trapped discs in nearly any scenario. For further flexibility, the ARM comes with two grabbing devices, the pivotable rectangle and the double claw. Go to your local retailer and ask for the ARM today.
So no way! You talking about superhero stuff? There's a flying caveman.
Welcome back to Flagstaff, Arizona. Grant Zellner and Terry Miller. We've seen the MP40 division, the FP40 division. They're actually here at the Little America Complex today. How did they get where they are? Let's check it out. No surprise to see Owen Scoggins at or near the top of the leaderboard. She is the two-time defending champion. Got started on the Fort Tuthill course, hole number 1, 336-foot par 3, Owen to that backhand that she's been working on, gaining distance, and then doing what Owen always does.
Yeah, and when you're talking about a course like this that she can just dissect, she can carve her way through the fairways and then getting it done with the putter, it sounds like the typical recipe for Owen's success.
Short par 3 second, Owen to a drop in for birdie. Ahead now to the 14th. 305 feet, Owen again with the backhand, pinning that shot. One blemish on the scorecard for Owen Scoggins. She more than made up for that with at 1.9 straight birdies in her round. She's got a lead of 3 already going into round 2.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, and not to harp on it, the one blemish she did have on the scorecard, the shortest hole on the course. So Owen Scoggins, plenty of birdies, and like you said, comes out with the lead when it's all said and done.
Stephanie Vincent here on hole 17. Solid birdie opportunity there. Then on the 18th, much of the same, turning that drive over, max distance. Tough little upshot on the closing hole at Fort Tuthill, and up for a drop-in birdie. Stephanie Vincent making her presence known. A 9 under par round, good for second place. That's rated 976, by the way. It's the 7th best round of Stephanie Vincent's career.
Great time to do it. And notice all of the birdies on the end of that scorecard. I feel like that's where a ton of scoring took place. Owen, of course, peppered them throughout the entire course, but it looked as if the back half of that course was the more scoreable section. Stephanie took advantage.
Sandy HENDEL, lefty from Ontario, Canada, playing on the featured card, a little global flavor on our featured car for round number 1 here at the 11th, crushing the drive and then almost puts it in for the eagle. Ahead to the 13th, another par 4. Great position for Stephanie and a drop in. Now the 17th, solid backhand off the tee, and yet another clean look for birdie for Sandy. Right into the shadow of the basket. So the leaderboard, well, let's take another look at 17. I may have misspoke a moment ago. The result, though, much the same as every other highlight.
Yeah, you see consistent putting, and also of note, we saw her brother on our feature card on the MP40 side. As you just said, this is the World Championships. This is international flavor, and 2 of our best coming from Canada. Great to see them both performing yesterday.
Owen Scoggins, Stephanie Vincent, Holly Finley, and the aforementioned Sandy HENDEL making up the featured card coverage for day number 2. Of course, that post-produced coverage will be available at the PDGA's YouTube channel tomorrow. They're out right now on the course, and things sort of staying pretty tight. I think the issue's still in doubt.
Yeah, and there are certainly no surprises when I look at that leaderboard. You're talking about the top 5 rated women are all shifting with somewhere within those top 5 spots. Owen Scoggins carving up a short technical course that feels like it may play to her advantage all week long. However, and she comes in with the highest rating. So to see her come out with that hot score by 3, but very close throughout, and we'll see if there's any shakeup when they head over to the crew course, where they'll have slightly different challenges out here. But nothing on that lead card really jumps out at me as overly shocked.
Another card getting coverage here at 2023 PDGA Masters Worlds, the MP50 division. Let's take a look at how they got off to a start yesterday. Brian Schweberger, the winningest player in the history of the PDGA. He's a former major champion. Here he is at the 6th, the par 4. Schwebby turning around the catch cam. Age is just a number. Then the approach to the bullseye for a drop in.
Yeah, and we've known he's made a career of throwing those overhand shots. Believe it or not, he doesn't like to rely on them as much as he used to as age continues to be a factor. But Schwebby, he will use that anytime when it requires, and it's just so pinpoint accurate.
Shoulders of steel, and it's working for Schwebby here at the 18th, a 500-foot par 4, a crush off the tee. Where is the fairway here at the 18th? Well, there it is. That's right where Schwebby's disc just flew.
He'll find it one way or another. As a guy who's been playing in North Carolina for the last 25 years, he will find any fairway, whether it's obvious or not.
Had a jumper for the eagle, settles for the birdie. Meanwhile, Robert Bainbridge out of Sacramento, California. Here he is at the 8th, 330-foot tight par 3. It's a little skip here. A lot of rocks, a lot of rough footing all over the courses here. We talked about how some of the players in situations you might think they'll run up, they won't. They'll stand still because you can't tell. The run-up's pretty treacherous.
Yeah, you'll see not only the standstills, but you also have to keep in check, even though you're throwing to an area, of course you're throwing an approach or a drive, you have to realize you're going to catch a rock that you just simply can't play for. You don't know that, you know, a particular rock or a spot is going to get you hung up, and that's going to happen to everyone throughout the week. It's also going to probably chew up your disc just a little bit as well, and that's going to be a factor as the week wears on.
Robert ahead at the 16th, a little baby hyzer all the way down the fairway, right to the tree stump. A drop in for yet another birdie. The overall leaderboard in the MP50 division stands thus. Chris Smith ahead by 1. Mike Mosier in second. Ron Converse, a fellow Okie, in a 3-way tie for 3rd with Robert Bainbridge and Chris May. Schwebby also in the mix heading into day number 2.
Yeah, and I guess I will somewhat relate Schwebby to a Jen Allen. Comes in as one of the highest rated, isn't on the lead card, but obviously is still in contention. Schwebby, I know, excited to be out here playing for his World Championship title. We'll see what kind of move he can make during day number 2. clearly he hasn't taken himself out of anything, but I'm sure by his standards that was a little bit of a slow start for him, and a slow start meaning you're still just 4 off the lead, not too bad.
Still in the very, very early going of this long major championship, and a little more to come for you today, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I can't believe it.
You're up next.
Stay turning. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Ooh. Wow.
Alan, inbounds.
That's exactly.
Unbelievable.
It's important for us all to be stewards of the game.
I felt like, wow, now I'm a part of something pretty cool. You know, this community of people, it wasn't like it was easy to break into them. You know, you had to be around and you had to display some desire to improve, I think. I think they all respected that they could see in me a desire to become a better disc golfer.
Okay, let's talk about John.
JB was a champion very early on.
Seeing him, like, wow, he won the world championships. This is incredible. Like, and I remember it inspired me. I'm like, wow, maybe I could do that someday too. JB, every single hole, I thought maybe like, all right, well, this could go either way. He seemed to just be buttering these beautiful mid-ranges. And then what I remember the most, of course, by being a putter like I am, JB was in this little mode where every little putt that he really gave it that full effort, he gave this little breath tip, this little and man, when I heard I already knew it was in.
John Baldwin was low key, but he was amazing at the disc golf mechanics. Seeing people's throws, offering just subtle little advice, and his mechanics were flawless.
He gave his love so willingly to everybody that surrounded him. I never heard a hateful thing come out of John Baldwin's mouth.
Doesn't matter if you knew JB for 20 years or you knew him for 5 minutes. When you had JB in front of you and you were having a conversation with him, his greatest gift was that he would be so present with you and he would give anything that he had to help you. You see trash on the ground, or if you see someone who needs some help with their game, offer it to him.
When you had a moment with JB, it meant something. And that's the way he reached the community. It was always one-on-one, individually, and it was special.
He just exudes calmness. I would play 20 points better than my rating every time I played with John.
I mean, he made an impact wherever he went. I don't think he really knew how much of a leader he was.
He unfortunately was unable to see himself the way that we all saw him.
Is just an incredible person, and that the disc golf community was very fortunate to have an ambassador like John.
JB was all that is good in this world.
JB, still love you and I miss you.
You know, anyone can go out and win a tournament. That really doesn't say that much about you other than, you know, maybe you're disciplined or talented. And whereas sportsmanship, or the way you conduct yourself on the course and off the course, I feel like that's not luck at all.
Another look at a beautiful tribute to Jonathan Baldwin from back at the U.S. Masters Championships.
Yeah, and I had the pleasure, as all of those people did as well, of knowing him, and just always a smile, always a hug, the kind, gentle soul that he was, and like everyone else, I will personally miss him as well.
We're going to take you through the field, as they say. Lots of divisions in play here at the Masters World Championships. In the MP50 division, we mentioned this earlier, Chris Smith leads through day number 1. Juliana Korver in FP50, leading Kimberly Gianola in that division. Looking at the FP60, Kathy Hardiman over Pam Reinecke for the time being. Jay Gobrecht of Hanover, Pennsylvania in MP65, leading Kenny Lee. And Randy Beers out of Miami, Florida, MP70 over Rick Vokes, Dr. Rick Vokes, third all-time in the most world titles.
Dr. Rick, I'm going to go back just for a moment. The 2000 Pro and Am World Championships in Michigan. Barry Schultz, who was essentially established as one of the best players on the planet, he grabbed Dr. Rick Vokes, who was playing an age protected or was eligible to do it, but he grabbed Dr. Rick Vokes as his partner for the divisional doubles. So a gentleman that could throw only maybe 2/3 as far as Barry, but Dr. Rick didn't miss a putt. He never misses a putt. And Barry Schultz pulled him in and said, hey, I want to have you come play with me as my doubles partner. So, you talk about drive for show, putt for dough. You talk about strategy. Dr. Rick, one of the greatest of all time, teaming up with Barry Schultz, a really fond memory I had from the 2000 Worlds.
Doctors always have steady hands. We're in the middle of day number 2. Any thoughts as the players, many of whom are going to a new course for today? Any thoughts what you expect might happen in some of these divisions?
Well, as I was alluding to earlier, I don't think I saw anything that just blew my hair back in terms of surprises. We're seeing the top players, the top competitors, or the highest rated players generally had a good round yesterday. And I look at that MP40 field, it's going to be as tight and competitive as any other event you're going to watch this year. We're talking about some of the legends of the game that have been around for a very long time that have all won big events. And we saw how tight it was from day number 1. And I think of Akil Laviska, hungry, of course, for his first shot at a world title here in the Masters division. Steve Rico, who will probably openly admit to us that he feels like he was so close at so many world championships and he never could take one down. That's maybe the tiniest miss in his overall legacy, pun intended, in that he wants a world title. And so I'm looking forward to it. I've said it countless times. I'm here because these are the players I grew up playing against, playing with. These are some of my good friends. I know that's just MP40. I looked at the list you were just talking about and looking forward to seeing how these battles will unfold. The wind is picking up.
It is indeed.
So we're feeling that way more right now than we did at any point yesterday. So that's going to be a factor. And then, they're going to have their shot at that second course. As you said, they're shifting gears for one day and they'll continue to alternate. So mentally, physically, you have to work that into your game plan.
The vast majority of the divisions within 3 strokes at the top. So no divisions or very few divisions already getting a lot of score separation. And we're going to see today if any separation begins to happen. We also always expect that Thursday or Friday run from somebody coming up from a little bit deeper in the field. I have no doubt that that's going to happen in some of these divisions. I know that the vast majority of the holes in play here are birdieable, even if they're also eminently bogeyable. There are some lines and there are some opportunities. As a matter of fact, yesterday on the long course, sort of the feature course here in the MP40 division, every single hole on that course was birdied at least once. So opportunities for people to make runs here.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see. And then the extracurriculars, I always think about what brings in a world championships, what makes it special. We had the opening ceremonies, and then last night there was a banquet on tonight on Wednesday night. We're going to have a fly mart, which is always one of my favorite parts to add maybe to the collection of discs. So all of those things continue to factor in people enjoying themselves in Flagstaff. I'm excited about all of it.
A lot of history here, a lot of history yet to be made. We've still got more than 4 days to go at the 2023 PDGA Masters Disc Golf World Championships. Thanks for watching. I'm Grant Zellner for Terry Miller. We'll see you back here tomorrow.